The desert wind didn't whisper that day. It howled, cruel and dry, dragging dust across the cracked boards of Brimstone Hollow like fingernails across a coffin lid. Boots thudded heavy on the warped saloon porch. Eyes turned, and there she was, Clara, 20 summers old, dirt-smudged and sun-weary, stepping off the stagecoach with a bag that didn't hold much more than broken hope. Her heart beat like a trapped bird. She scanned the street. No welcome, no kindness, just sneers. Then he stepped out from the shadows. Gideon Sykes, her stepfather, drunk by noon and damned by dusk. "Well, look who crawled home," he slurred, swaying on his boots. "You got pretty, Clara. That's good. Makes this easier." He yanked her by the arm before she could speak. Her bag hit the dirt. Nobody moved. Nobody cared. They stopped outside the Broken Spur Saloon, its windows fogged with sweat and whiskey, its doors swinging like a lazy executioner's axe. A crowd gathered fast. They always did when blood or women were involved. "Let her go," Clara said through clenched teeth. Gideon grinned with rot between his teeth. "Already did. Sold you off, same as a busted colt." From inside, Marlowe Griggs strutted out, heavy rings on heavier fingers, flipping a silver coin. "Debt's paid," Marlowe said. "Fair deal. I owned what he owed, including her." Clara's eyes widened. She turned to run, but two men blocked the way. The rope came fast. Rough hands pulled her to the saloon steps. Gideon lit a cigar like it was nothing. She fought, kicked, screamed. A slap cracked across her cheek. "You'll learn obedience," Marlowe sneered, "or you'll learn pain." The crowd watched, silent, dust swirling around their boots like ghosts of every girl they'd let fall before. But in the back, under the shade of the old general store's awning, stood a man with a bent hat and eyes like gunmetal. Elias Boone. He didn't speak, didn't blink, just watched, jaw tight as saddle leather. And Clara, tears blurring her vision, caught sight of him. For 1 second their eyes locked, and something deep inside her said, "That man, he's not done fighting." But for now, the rope burned her wrists, and the crowd cheered the sale like it was sport. Brimstone Hollow had always been a cruel town. But this time, someone else was watching. The desert didn't care who you were. It swallowed the weak, silenced the screaming, and left only bones to tell the story. By mid-morning, Clara was gagged, wrists raw and bound behind her back, slumped over the back of a horse like dead weight. Marlowe's men rode in silence. No laughter now, just the kind of cold obedience that came with cruelty done too often. They stopped where the land cracked wide and the sun hung like judgment itself. "She runs once," one of them muttered, dragging her off the saddle. "She'll think twice next time, if she's still breathing." They tied her to a splintered fence post, left over from a ranch long burned. No water, no shade, just Clara, the wind, and the buzz of flies already circling. "Sun'll do the work," the taller man said, spitting into the dust. "Boss said let her simmer." They rode off, laughter trailing like a dying echo. Clara pulled at the ropes until her skin tore. Her mouth was too dry to scream. The wind bit at her face like sandpaper. Sweat dried fast. Her legs buckled, but the rope held her upright like some cruel marionette. She looked up. The sky blurred. Then came the memories. Her mother's voice, soft, singing by lantern light. Elias Boone's hand lifting her onto a saddle when she was no taller than the wheel. "Don't fear horses, Clara," he'd said once. "Fear men who act like they're gods." And Gideon, smelling like gin and ash, shouting, slamming doors, selling her soul one bottle at a time. A vulture circled above. Her vision dim, and time slowed. The desert whispered lullabies of death. Then, hooves. She thought it was a dream, the thunder of hooves cutting across the sand. She blinked against the sun. A rider, fast, straight as a bullet. The horse stopped in a storm of dust. A figure dismounted, tall, broad, rifle on his back. Elias Boone. He dropped to one knee, knife flashing. The ropes fell. Clara collapsed into his arms, her body limp but alive. "You came," she rasped. He didn't answer, just lifted her gently like she was something worth saving. Behind them, the wind howled on, but in his arms Clara found silence and the promise of shelter. Elias Boone's horse cut across the valley like a shadow racing the wind. Clara slumped against him, her face pressed into his chest. She barely registered the sway of the saddle or the soft creak of leather. The last thing she remembered before blacking out was the warmth of his hand on hers. By the time she woke, it was night, and the world smelled of pine, smoke, and bread. Lantern light flickered across the walls of a log cabin nestled deep in Whispering Oak Valley, a place no map remembered but the stars still honored. Safe, still, the opposite of Brimstone Hollow. She tried to sit up, groaning as pain shot through her shoulders. "You're all right," came Boone's voice, low as a thunder roll. "You're safe now." He stood in the doorway, silhouetted against moonlight, holding a mug of water. Clara took it, hands shaking. Why did you come?" He didn't answer right away, just stared into the fire like it might hold the words he couldn't say. "Because no one else did," he said finally, "and that ain't right." Days passed in quiet rhythm. Boone didn't ask questions. He brought her clean clothes, laid out bread and stew each night, and worked the ranch like always, feeding horses, fixing fence posts, moving with a calm that settled the air. Clara healed, slowly. Her wrists still bore the angry red kiss of rope, but the tremble in her voice faded. She found her feet again. One morning she followed him to the barn. "Teach me," she said. He looked at her, brow furrowed. "Teach you what?" "To ride, to shoot, to not be weak." Boone handed her the saddle without a word. In the weeks that followed, Clara learned to hold a rifle steady, to strike flint with one hand, to ride without fear. She fell twice, cursed more than once, but Boone never raised his voice, never looked at her like she was broken. One night by the fire, she stared at her calloused hands. "They took everything from me," she whispered. Boone glanced at her. "Not everything," he said. "You still got fight. And out here, that's worth more than gold." Outside, the oak trees swayed gently. And for the first time in a long while, Clara didn't feel hunted. She felt home. The wind shifted that morning, hotter, sharper. Even the horses felt it, stamping restless in their pens. Boone stood on the porch, coffee in hand, eyes locked on the distant ridge where dust curled like smoke. Trouble was coming, and it wore spurs. Word had spread through Brimstone Hollow like wildfire soaked in whiskey. "The girl's alive. She's with Boone." Marlowe Griggs didn't take embarrassment kindly, nor did he take no as an answer, especially not from a man like Elias Boone. By midday, 3 riders approached the ranch gate, Marlowe at the front, smug beneath his wide-brimmed hat. Gideon Sykes rode beside him, flask in one hand, shotgun in the other. The third was just muscle, silent, mean, eyes like cold iron. Boone didn't move. He leaned against the porch rail, fingers drumming the worn wood. Marlowe called out, voice too slick. "Mornin', Boone. You're harboring something that don't belong to you." Boone set his cup down slow. "Ain't harboring a damn thing. She's free." Gideon spat in the dirt. "She's property, by blood and debt." Clara stepped into the doorway behind Boone, hands trembling but eyes clear. "I ain't your anything." Boone took a step forward. His boots hit the boards like thunder. "You ride through that gate," he said, voice like dry gravel. "You'll ride out with bullets in your gut, if you ride out at all." Marlowe's smile faltered just for a second. Then he chuckled. "We'll be back. And next time, we won't be talking." He turned his horse, and the 3 rode off, but not before Gideon looked back, eyes burning with something between shame and rage. Clara exhaled slowly. They'll come again. Boone nodded. I know. She looked up at him. Aren't you afraid? He gave a half smile, wry, weary. Been afraid plenty, but never backed down from what's right. That night Boone loaded his rifle by the firelight. Clara sat across from him, sharpening a blade. Out in the valley the coyotes howled louder than usual, and somewhere in Brimstone men were gathering, spitting on Boone's name, sharpening their own kind of justice. But out here, under stars older than law, Clara wasn't prey anymore. She was learning to stand, and Boone, he'd already decided, if they wanted her back, they'd have to burn this place to the ground. The knock came just after dawn, 3 sharp raps on the door, followed by silence. Boone opened it slow, rifle cradled in his arm like a newborn. On the porch stood Sheriff Beckett, dust on his coat, brim low over tired eyes. Morning, Elias, the lawman said, voice tight. Mind if we talk? Boone stepped aside. Clara stood behind him, spine straight, hands curled into fists. Beckett removed his hat as he entered. The room smelled of coffee and gun oil. He glanced at Clara, then at the rifle on the table. Town's talking. Marlowe says you're hiding stolen property. Says you've got a girl here that was paid for fair and legal. Boone crossed his arms. She ain't property, and nothing about that deal was legal. Clara stepped forward. Her voice cracked but held. They tied me up in the desert. Left me for dead. Beckett looked down, his jaw flexed. Can you prove that? She held up her wrists, raw scars still healing. Is this proof enough? The sheriff took a long breath. Listen, I believe you. But Marlowe's riled up half the saloon boys. Says he's coming back tonight with more than talk. Boone didn't flinch. Let him. Beckett's eyes narrowed. You got 48 hours. After that, I can't stop what's coming. If you two are still here, you'll be on your own. Clara stepped between them. We're not running. The sheriff nodded slowly. Didn't think you would. He tipped his hat and left without another word. When the door shut, Boone turned to her. We need to be ready. That day, the ranch changed. The fence posts were sharpened. Lanterns were set every 20 yards. Ammunition was counted. Blades honed. Clara practiced loading a revolver until her fingers blistered. By nightfall, Boone stood on the porch, staring out at the dark horizon. He could feel the storm building, not of weather, but of men. Inside, Clara lit the fireplace, the flames dancing like war paint across her face. They think I'm still afraid, she said. Boone didn't look back. Let 'em. It'll be the last mistake they make. The valley was silent, but not at peace. Not yet. Night fell heavy, swallowing the valley in a blanket of black so thick it felt alive. The wind carried a coppery tang, and Boone could hear it rattling the barn doors, stirring the dry grass like it was whispering warnings. From the ridge, torches ignited, flickering like angry eyes. Horses snorted and pawed at the ground. Boone crouched low, rifle in hand, listening. Footsteps crunched closer. 7 men, led by Marlowe, each carrying the kind of violence that didn't forgive. Clara peeked through the cabin window, hands trembling around the rifle Boone had entrusted to her. They're here, she whispered. Her voice was steady, but Boone could see the storm of fear behind her eyes. Boone stepped into the open yard, boots crunching on gravel. I told you once, he said, voice low and steady. Leave now, or ride out with regrets. Marlowe laughed, the sound cutting through the night like a knife. Old man, we'll take what's ours. Tonight? The first shot rang out. Boone ducked behind the water trough, returning fire with precision. Sparks danced off metal as bullets struck the fence posts. Clara fired once, twice, her aim true. Dust swirled around their boots. Flames licked the barn as Marlowe's men set fire to hay bales, laughing at their chaos. Boone ran toward the barn, shouting, Get out! Get out now! He slammed the door to protect the horses, but a rogue shot tore a hole through the wood. Smoke choked the night, curling into their eyes. Clara grabbed Boone's arm. They're going for the house. He shoved her behind a stack of crates, then turned to face them, muscles coiled, face bloodied from a grazing bullet. "Not here," he growled. "Not tonight." Two men lunged from the shadows. Boone's rifle barked, dropping one. The other ran, only to stumble over a loose board, the wind taking his scream. By the time the smoke cleared, Boone was captured, ropes biting into his wrists as Gideon sneered, standing over him. "Thought you could play hero, huh? Should have stayed out of our games." Clara's eyes widened, fists clenched around the gun. Her heart pounded, a drumbeat of desperation. Flames cast long shadows across the yard, flickering on faces twisted with greed. The wind carried Boone's low, unbroken growl. "This ain't over." And somewhere deep in the valley the stars blinked silently, witnesses to the storm about to come. The night was far from over, and Brimstone Hollow had yet to learn that some debts weren't paid with gold, they were paid in fire. Dawn broke over Brimstone Hollow like a promise of reckoning. The sun's first light hit the square, turning the dust golden, but it did little to soften the tension. Boone stood tied to the post, rope biting into his wrists, bruises darkening his forearms. His shirt was torn, smeared with blood and dust, and yet he didn't flinch as the crowd gathered, whispering, cheering, curious, horrified. Clara was forced back onto the makeshift stage, the rope again cutting into her skin, her face pale but defiant. She met Boone's eyes, and he gave her the slightest nod, a signal that she was not alone, that he was still there, even broken. Marlowe Griggs strutted forward, all teeth and arrogance, his hand resting on the butt of his revolver. "The rancher dies today," he declared, voice slicing through the morning air. "The girl's ours. Justice has a price, and you're going to pay it, Boone." Gideon sneered beside him, stepping close to Clara. "She belongs to me. Always has. Always will." Boone's eyes narrowed, muscles tensing like coiled steel. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. The silence stretched, the kind that presses on the chest, makes lungs tight. Then, slowly, deliberately, Boone shifted his weight. The ropes groaned, stretched, fraying. With a raw, guttural roar, he tore through them, rope snapping like twigs. The crowd froze. Dust rose in spirals around his boots. He stood, chest heaving, blood running down his arms, eyes blazing. "I'm done with their games," Boone thundered, voice carrying over the square like cannon fire. Every head turned, mouths falling open, hearts skipping beats. Marlowe stumbled back, startled as Boone advanced, each step measured, unstoppable. He swung a fist that connected with Gideon, sending him sprawling. Clara ducked the edge of a boot and ran to Boone's side. The townsfolk held their breath as the tension cracked the air. Horses whinnied, kicked in pens, and even the wind seemed to pause. For once, the lawless mob of Brimstone Hollow felt powerless against a single man who refused to bend. Boone's gaze locked on Marlowe. "One last chance," he growled. "You walk away, or you don't walk at all." The outlaw's smile faltered. The swagger drained from his shoulders. In that heartbeat, the power shift from Ted. The girl was free, the rancher unbroken, and the dust carried the promise of justice yet to come. And Clara, standing beside him, knew something she hadn't in years. Courage could arrive, sudden,